Hello everyone and welcome to this video. In this video we are going to take a look at Death End Request for the PC. The game was developed by Idea Factory and Compa and was published by Idea Factory International and released in 2019. Death End Request is a game all about the digital world mixing with the real world. There's horror, comedy, action and more in this game. But is it any good or not? Here's the details. The game's plot is a bit hard to explain. It's a type of mixture between the digital world and the real one, and how at some point they both start affecting each other and merging together. Long story short, our female main character is trapped in the digital game world and she needs to escape. In the real world, our male main character is a computer programmer who helps and assists Sheena in her efforts to escape the game, whilst also having to deal with his own problems in the real world. The plot itself is quite good at first, because you think that this is going to be something new and different from Idea Factory, as they sort of aim for the type of horror area. However, things oddly change at various points throughout the game's story, and the game's horror elements just get dropped for either comedy or something else. It feels as if the game's story isn't sure what exactly it wants to be. It could have been solely focused on horror and been something different and new from IF and Compile Heart. Instead, it just kind of feels like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it's never really sure what it wants to be, and it just kind of leaves you, the gamer, feeling a bit confused. With the game's characters, I felt like they were all a little bit hollow. Whilst they do all have their own individuality and personality, I just found them quite bland, and I found it very difficult to connect with them. It could just be me, and you the viewer might really like this cast of characters, but for me, however, I just couldn't really click with any of them. And because of that, I found it hard to gain any attachment to them or really care about the situation that any of them were in. Gameplay is a mixture of two halves. The first half of the game is the visual novel side. Now, I am going to warn you right away about this one. The game is very, very heavy on the visual novel element. The interactions between characters are quite frequent and very long. So long, in fact, that some can last up to around 30 to 40 minutes, or dare I say, even longer. So be prepared to sit down and have your reading glasses on standby. The other part is the exploration and combat, which is something quite different from the norm. The battle system in this game works via status effects and via a rebound system. You can't just simply run up to the enemies at random and punch them and attack, but instead you have to defeat them by essentially using a type of stupid pinball setup system. What I mean by this is that enemies get thrown around the arena after the final hit that your character lands. If they bounce off other enemies, they will add more damage to themselves and those that they hit. If they hit the arena walls and they rebound off another character, then that will add additional more damage to them already. And then if they also hit one of your teammates, they'll hit them more, and then they'll bounce right back at anything else that's in their way. The gameplay offers something traditional and new, just like Dragon Star Varnia did. However, I'm not too sure that it's something that works. The graphics are pretty and nice to look at, if a bit basic. They're the usual standard which you would expect to see in an anime style game, and if you've played other Idea Factory games before, like Fairy Fencer or any of the Neptunia games from that franchise, then you'll know what to expect here with this one. It's the usual, they're nice, but nothing exactly groundbreaking. The game's levels are terribly laid out. They're not what you would usually expect, because a big problem here is how it's all been designed and then laid out before you. Let's take for example the shipping dock level, and with this one you'll start off fine enough. You'll then get a 12-minute cutscene, you'll walk around for a few minutes, you'll get yet another 12-minute cutscene, you'll talk for 2 more minutes or so, and then you will then get another 12-minute cutscene. Now, here is the problem. You're either going to get into a battle after all that, and get one hit killed, which stupidly happens quite a lot in this game, or you're going to be forced into a cutscene by the game, which you can't avoid, and then that forces you to make a choice, which doesn't matter, because 9 out of 10 times it's going to give you a game over screen. I just found myself hating the game's levels, because they pull this nonsense constantly. The save crystals are few and far between, and even though you can save in certain cutscenes, you either forget, because this is a new setup that's been put in place and not really something that's been in any other type of game before, or you just don't know when the last one is before you have to fight a boss, and if you do miss it when you need it, and you do miss it, you're screwed. I'll be honest about this, I didn't like it. I really didn't like it at all. I tried to like it, but I just hated it in the end, because of all the nonsense that this game pulls. Stuff like enemies that can one-hit kill you right away, asking me if I want to save an NPC or not, and then giving me a game over screen, costing me 40 hours of gameplay which I'd made. Characters who just feel hollow, and that I can't seem to connect with, and environments that just seem either very bland, or just like there's no heart or care put into them whatsoever. It's games like this and Dragonstar Varnia that really have me confused with Idea Factory and Compile Heart. People want a brand new Neptunia game that continues on after the story of 7. Yet instead of doing that, they seem to be pumping money into games like this. And I don't really understand why. Death End Request is a game that I was looking forward to playing, and that I wanted to enjoy. Instead, it's left me quite frustrated with it, and very bitter with it, and that's quite sad. Because I feel if the game had just had a bit more work put into it, and more focus on the gameplay and the combat elements over the heavy visual novel aspects, that this game could have been a brilliant horror-style game. Instead, it just kind of feels like Idea Factory kind of skipped all that, and then started making something with the idea of horror being the main element in mind, but then kind of got lost along the way, weren't really sure what they were doing or making, and in the end, we just ended up with this. It's an okay game, but really, it's just okay. Death End Request is not a bad game, I just really wouldn't go out of my way to say that it's a good game or even a great game. If you do like visual novels and you are quite into that, then you will really enjoy this one because it is very heavy on the visual novel parts. However, the gameplay itself is quite disappointing, and I don't really think that a lot of time or effort has been put into it. So because of that, if someone was to ask me if I would recommend this game or not, I would be quite hesitant. I would have to say that really it depends up to you, the gamer, and if you like heavy visual novel games with a little bit of gameplay which isn't very good, or if you're one of these people who are expecting this to be like the Neptunia franchise and fun and enjoyable, which sadly it isn't. Well, long story short, I would have to say that if I was to recommend this, I would have to say no. I wish I didn't have to say that, and I wish I could recommend it, because I was looking forward to it. However, sadly, with all the things within this game that make it what it is, I really can't recommend this one at all. Well, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and please subscribe.